There's a handful of things that get you so nostalgic for Nintendo. It's Mario's jump. It's Zelda's treasure chest sound. It's chunky plastic in your hands. Nintendo and video games in general have been a physical medium since their inception. And even though things are progressing towards a more digital future, it's always been fun to hold on to big chunky cartridges. That era, though, seems to be evaporating quicker than ever. And a couple of really weird industry events over the last few days have cemented the idea that physical is fully on the way out. And some of these even involve Nintendo Switch. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. The end of physical games, the end of cartridges, the end of discs. We'll take these one by one and see if Nintendo will be able to keep up a physical, crunchy, plastic feel as they get ready to move eventually into a new generation, and even in some weird ways, this generation. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, if you'd be bummed if physical games completely evaporate, or if you think it's totally fine. It seems like right now the industry is about 60% digital, 40% physical, but 35-40%, that's still a lot of game sales. Now, Batman Arkham Collection is coming to Nintendo Switch, and unfortunately we found out some very bad news. Batman Arkham Asylum is on the cartridge, Batman Arkham City and Arkham Knight are not. Now this one is a bit of a hybrid situation, perfect for the Switch, because one of the games is on the cart and you still have a cart, two of the games are not. This has become an issue for Nintendo given the fact that cartridges are limited. You got games downloading on the PS5 that are 110 gigabytes, and then you got the cartridges. I mean, Nintendo somehow is able to manage and keep their file sizes insanely low. I think the new WarioWare is like 1.2 gigabytes, and the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Wonder is like 4.2. Like I said, everything I download on PS5 is like 80, 90, 150. Nintendo has lucked out that because of their graphical, prehistoric nature, they're able to keep file sizes very low. But what happens when they can't anymore? Will they continue a commitment to cartridges? We're seeing with third parties and other games that they either use the cloud or they use downloads. And let me tell you, the former is so much worse than the latter. Cloud gaming is bad on Nintendo Switch. Cloud gaming in general, I think, is even less preferred than at least having the digital download. But some people have struggling internet, some people don't have the space, and the Switch in particular does not have a ton of storage. So for the collectors, they're getting 1/3 of the Batman games actually on the cartridge. And it seemed like a similar situation was going to happen with Starfield, where Bethesda accidentally tweeted out that none of the physical editions would come with discs. In fact, it would be boxes and codes, and while that still is a physical representation of the game, many gamers would much prefer the actual disc. You own it, you can hold it, you can trade it, you can sell it, you can gift it, you can break it in half if you so choose. Well, the collector's edition of Starfield absolutely does not have a disc, but it does seem like the regular editions, the standard versions, the non-Game Pass standard non-collector's edition versions of the physical version of Starfield will have discs. And people rejoice about that. Now, personally, I find it a bit odd because I am totally digital. In my early 20s, I was collectathon mode completely. I had the shelves and shelves. I had tons of Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, NES, like SNES. We went through all of the generations. You could track back my entire lifetime with games, and it was very cool. But in an older era, my 30s, I don't have the space or desire for that. All of my physical games are boxed up and stored. I'm not getting rid of them by any means, but I'm not displaying them either. Therefore, digital makes much more sense to me, and so I didn't really understand the outrage over Starfield possibly not having a physical disc, especially given that game is Game Pass. And Game Pass and things of that sort introduce a whole nother angle to this digital versus physical future. Everything you get for NSO, digital. But that's by design. So what happens when a game like Alan Wake 2, upcoming horror adventure action game, does not have any physical versions? Now there's actually an extreme benefit to this, as said by the developers over at Remedy. They say that they're able to work on this game right up to launch. They can perfect and tweak and bug fix all the way up until its absolute release date. The day zero patch will be the day zero patch. It'll be the final version of the game, as opposed to having to submit to manufacturing 2 months early. Right? Normally with a game, you got to get the cartridge printed, you got to get the disc printed, you got to get manufactured, and you have to send over that version, and then, oh wait, work on a downloadable patch version. We end up having two different versions of the game, those who don't connect to the internet and those who do, and in a way, a digital-only release like Alan Wake 2 ensures that everyone gets the exact same best ultimate version of the game, and it buys the developers more time, which erodes delays, erodes crunch, and in theory, erodes errors, mistakes, bugs, and glitches. So there's definitely positives to digital-only releases, but Nintendo feels like they are the absolute torchbearers of physical mediums because they're still using cartridges like they did back in the day. Now, obviously, with GameCube and Wii and Wii U, they traversed to the disc side and delivered things in a more rotund fashion. But here we are in the Switch, back to the cartridge nature that we saw have the 3DS and 2DS and Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color, and all of those portable systems still rely on plastic. It seems like physical games are eroding entirely. We have THQ Nordic say they will only make very few versions of their collector's editions and physical editions going forward. We've got companies like Limited Run Games who are all about ensuring there's a physical version of even the indie type titles that are definitely download only. There is a subset of people that want to maintain this physical representation of video games, but it does seem like the industry is pulling completely in a digital direction, and I wonder how much letting go there's going to need to be. Like, are we going to have to let go, or will it just happen? Because for me, it's already happened. Whether Alan Wake 2 is physical or digital, whether Mario Bros. Wonder comes on a cartridge or drops from the eShop, whether Starfield has a disc inside or not, I'm getting that thing on Game Pass. I'll download Alan Wake the night it comes out. I'll buy Mario Wonder, but it'll absolutely be on the Australian eShop so I can play it early as possible. There is no reason for me to pre-order a game, pick up a physical version, unless I'm absolutely sent it, or unless there's some crazy sale for a game that I get post-launch. Even then, though, digital storefronts are offering a lot of great discounts, and there's even an opportunity to get game store currency for cheaper via places like Costco or eBay or other sorts of deals. I'm finding no reason to get things in a physical capacity. And I know the whole fear of, like, what if they shut down the servers? What if they shut down the eShop? What if they take it away from you? And my personal opinion, just me, is like, I don't think that I play any of these games long enough to worry about the servers shutting down. And if I want to, well, Nintendo has basically shown us that they have a service called Nintendo Switch Online where they're delivering all the old games that you can no longer play. You don't even need them physical, though, because you can just get them off of Nintendo's online service. With all this being said, I fully believe Nintendo will enter the next generation, whenever that may be, late 2024, with more physical media. I think Nintendo will be the last hanging in terms of completely converting over to a digital-only future. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe it makes sense that the company that began sort of the Mario Brothers console NES Palooza will continue it longer than anybody else. We've got discless PlayStation 5, so as you see, these other platform holders are surely thinking about it. But even the Switch Lite, the cheapest system, does allow for a cartridge slot. And I cannot see Nintendo providing a version of their next system that doesn't have a small opening for cartridge to enter. Although I do question what happens when a third party wants to put their game on Switch 2, now that it does have far stronger performance and graphical capabilities, but their game is 72 gigs. What do they do? How does that work? Is it download only? It'll have to be. So there's some part of Nintendo's future that will be dramatically affected by where games are going. And it seems like in just a week's time, things escalated and were expedited in a very abrupt manner. We don't have guaranteed physical versions of even the biggest AAA games. We don't have guaranteed physical stock of some of our favorite collector's editions and or physical versions. So much of this is going to Game Pass, the eShop, the digital storefronts, and the physical existence of games, it's being taken away. You could argue that this happened with movies long ago. Yes, there are still DVDs at your local Kroger or Walmart or Meijer or Target, but for the most part, everyone experiences their TV and movies through streaming services, maybe the theater, or even a download off of Apple TV+. Very few people are going to the movie store and renting these things or buying these things. And it seems like showbiz is still doing just fine. I don't want to get into the semantics or the monetary problems with movie theaters and how that's all performing, but the world went on. And the world will go on when video games ditch the brick and mortar and ditch the physical versions as well. It just seems like that is more resisted in our community because people do like to physically have them. They like the collection aspect. They like being able to put it in. And there's something tangible and tactile about video games because it's a playable medium that differs from a movie. When you put a movie disc in, it's like, okay, it just runs. So if it runs without me putting it in, it's a convenience. But a game is active. A game is far from passive. A game is something that you engage with directly with your hands. So getting to pop the cartridge in, getting to hold and manipulate that physical form does feel different than on the movie side of things. Will you be sad when this inevitably happens? Because it's happening. And do you think Nintendo will ever dare do a digital-only release? Could you see a world where Metroid Prime 4 is only digital? They save all the money on cartridges. They save all the fees from Walmart and Target and distribution. They're able to rake in more money, be more profitable, have more time for development, and we get our game in a more complete state. It's very hard to see negatives for that scenario, except that you can't physically own it. And there's something about us that does not want to let go of actually owning the thing. But at the same time, it does seem like no matter how much we kick and scream, this is where it's going. You're going to get games that have a little bit on the cart and you download the rest. You're going to get games that don't have a cart at all. You're going to get games that have a horrible, awful cloud. Please, no horrible, awful cloud. I'd so much rather download than deal with that. But what do you think? Are you bummed about this transition? Do you think that this is something we should fight against? Or are you okay? And as Alan Wake 2 goes digital only, Starfield isn't sure if they're going to have a disc at all. And Nintendo, they stay strong with their plastic. They are plastic people over there. How long will that last for? Let me know your take in the comments down below. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive. And until next time, my friends, thanks a lot. SwitchForce, out.